Ladies and gentlemen, Zohran Mamdani has solved the problem of high grocery prices.
Today, I am proud to announce a collection of essential staples that will be predictably 30% cheaper at all 5 of our city-run grocery stores. This core set of goods will include all fresh produce, meat, and seafood, along with 20 other essential items like cheese, milk, and bread. Here's how it will work. Once a month, our 5 city-run grocery stores will set prices for this core set of goods at 30% below typical retail prices. No exceptions, no gimmicks. The savings will last for the entire month. That means no weekly fluctuations nor sticker shock at the checkout line. Not for our seniors living on fixed incomes, nor for the parents who rely on a regular supply of apple slices to keep toddler tantrums at bay.
I'm Rich Lowry of National Review, and who can oppose grocery prices 30% lower than you're going to get anywhere else? But there are a couple implied deceptions in this Mamdani statement, which is, of course, his salesmanship for his bigger project of opening a government-run grocery store in every borough in New York City. So I want to hit those deceptions quickly, then get into the bigger matter that this is a project that's fundamentally misconceived. But first of all, if you're just loosely listening to Mamdani, you would think, well, there must be something wrong with all the rest of the grocery stores in New York City. Why are they charging 30% more than Mamdani is going to be able to charge at the government stores? But no, prices have gone up around the country for key groceries because of the inflation this country has experienced, about 30%. They've increased from 2021 to 2023. Two, the fact of the matter is the produce, the underlying product at Mamdani stores will be exactly the same. The price is exactly the same as it is everywhere else. What he's talking about is masking the true price through subsidizing the product. Now, it's a universal law of human existence that prices fundamentally reflect supply and demand. The price is what the price is. Now, you can distort it or hide it, at least for some period of time, but there are downsides to that that have their own cost. You see this in real wage and price control situations. If you control the price of something and artificially depress it, people are going to buy more of it because it's artificially cheap. Hey, why not? And producers have less incentive to actually make it. So you're increasing the demand at the same time you're reducing the supply and you're creating shortages. You see this in the United States in the 1970s. The Nixon wage and price controls didn't work. Price controls on fuel didn't work in the 70s. Venezuela, perhaps the most catastrophic recent example of this phenomenon. Now, what Mamdani is talking about is a relatively small scale experiment, right? Just 5 grocery stores in all of New York City, but it's not changed the price of the underlying produce. His stores will pay the same amount and that price will be masked. Now, perhaps they can do that because these stores can operate on a cheaper basis because they're not paying taxes, they're not paying rent, and the taxpayers can directly subsidize these operations and make it possible for them to charge less, but the price of the underlying product is still the same. The other thing is that the grocery business is really complicated. I mentioned the Mamdani operations, they won't have to pay taxes, they won't have to pay rent, but everyone else has to pay for those things. At the same time, they are dealing with a business where your net profit margin is maybe 2% or less. And this is a really complicated logistical operation. We kind of take it for granted, right? You show up in a grocery store, the shelves are almost always full. There's almost always incredible variety. And it's just so easy for us to show up and grab what you want with this incredible variety. But so much work has gone into creating this minor miracle of American retail. A guy named Philip Lembert is known as the supermarket guru. He runs a Substack. This is what he wrote about this. He calls the grocery business the most operational demanding retail category on earth. Margins run at 1 or 2%, as we just referred to, on a good day. Perishables demand daily discipline. Labor, logistics, and shrink, that means losing inventory, including to thieves, can undo even the best intentioned concept in a matter of months. Public ownership eliminates rent and property taxes, as we also mentioned, and that is meaningful but it does not eliminate the need for flawless retail execution. The store still needs to be clean, well stocked, easy to navigate, and staffed by people who know the product and treat shoppers with dignity. It needs consistent cold chain management, smart category assortment that reflects what the community actually buys, and a pricing architecture that delivers on the promise of affordability without creating the sense that the store is a welfare program. Nobody wants to shop somewhere that makes them feel like a recipient. As we all know, there are a lot of outfits in America that already do this really well, that are maniacally focused on savings and efficiencies. Places like Trader Joe's, Lidl, Aldi. One thing they do, they carry less units in their stores. That means the inventory is a little simpler to manage. There's not as much spoilage. And they're really good at this because this is basically all they do. They have to be really good at this, or the stores wouldn't be successful and they wouldn't spread across the country. Now, New York City may be good at some things. I can't think of a lot of them, but running grocery stores is not one of them. That's not a core competency of New York City. And the fact is, one of these sites that Mamdani is going to open a store on or in is East Harlem, where you already have stores like this operating. There's an Aldi, there's a Costco, there's a City Fresh Market, there's a Shop Fair, there's a Fine Fair. So this is not a food desert in East Harlem. And what you're saying is that these outlets that are operating, as Lemper points out, in one of the most forbidding retail environments in the country are now also going to have to compete against a government operation that has an inherent built-in advantage. Why? By the way, another problem they have to deal with is crime. This is a problem in cities across the country, but has been a particular one in this East Harlem neighborhood. You had a Target that closed its location there a couple years ago, citing the problem of retail theft. And this is a factor, by the way, that helped undo a city-owned market in Kansas City, Missouri. So let's say these government operations are an enormous success. How would it be fair then to just have these 5 stores in random locations in the city where people in that immediate vicinity get government subsidized groceries, and people in other parts of the city that might be equally poor don't? That doesn't make any sense either. By the way, there are early signs that political factors are going to play a big role in how these things are set up and run. Of course they are, right? This is fundamentally political initiative that Mamdani is following up on because it's a political promise he made during a political campaign. But the East Harlem location is estimated it's going to cost $30 million to build. In context, you look at Aldi, the aforementioned grocery chain, it costs them about 1.5 or $2 million to build a new location. So what's the higher cost? Well, a lot of it surely has to do with the fact that Mamdani wants to create something that's gleaming and impressive, something that's a political symbol, the indication physically of how much the city cares about its people. Now, none of this means, obviously, that we shouldn't care about people getting groceries and that we shouldn't want groceries to be as cheap as possible. But if you want to achieve that in a more rational way, one, you could just subsidize all the already existing grocery stores in New York City. But even better, you could make it cheaper for them to get set up and for them to operate. Here's Limpert again. He writes of Mamdani, he has tools available to him right now: reduce regulatory burdens, streamline permitting, offer targeted tax incentives to operators who open in food access gaps. That would bring in experienced retailers who know how to run stores efficiently, source product competitively, and serve their communities. Another thing on this, speaking of outfits, as I was earlier, that do a really good job at reducing costs, you know, one of the biggest in the country, it's Walmart. You know what city keeps Walmart from operating within its jurisdiction? New York City. Walmart, by the way, the estimates are it has prices that are 5 to 25% lower than other stores. So this is an operation that's succeeding at Mamdani's goal, doing it without unfair government advantages and doing it to the benefit of consumers all around the country, except for in New York City. But instead of making it easier for existing grocery stores to operate in New York City, instead of inviting in other operations that are really good at reducing costs, what Mamdani is going to do at the margins is make it even more difficult for these operations in New York City by creating unfair government competition, and that's a shame. Hey, by the way, comment, like, subscribe. I promise you won't regret it. I'm Rich Lowry, over and out.